I'm Simon Hudson. I currently work full-time for a machine artist named Botto. I have a background in AI governance, policy, explainable AI and AI literacy, both in terms of research and also strategy at an old AI research lab called Element AI. Um, my background is largely in science and tech communications and multimedia production, and then later on got into the research around some of these topics. Um, Botto, as an autonomous artist, was named Digital Artist of the Year last year during the Hong Kong Digital Art Fair. It's had over 30 international exhibitions and shows around the world. Some examples of recent shows it's done. It's had over $3.8 million in sales with only about 130 works or NFTs sold. It's been the subject of academic research around collective intelligence, social influence, and new forms of art, and also presented at some of the leading AI conferences and computational social science conferences and digital art conferences. Subject of emerging press attention, and has been making waves as this decentralized autonomous artist. But what is a decentralized autonomous artist? And so that's what I'm going to get into today. I'm going to go into a little bit of the history, and then I'll get into what we've built and where we're going. So the idea of building a decentralized autonomous artist, or really just building automata, goes back centuries all the way to ancient Greece, and these ideas of autonomous machines. Obviously, Talos is this famous one, as this giant bronze war machine. More recently, in the 18th century, people started writing what you might call design fiction today, ideas of objects or that would have their own intelligence, and things that were other than human that could have their own intelligence, and humans being able to create their own intelligence. The Aeolian harp is an example of a piece of work that would take advantage of the intelligence of the wind being able to play more notes than a human hand could. There were other inventions like the mechanical Turk, which was meant to show this autonomous chess playing machine. Really was played by a little man inside of the machine, but started playing with these notions of man creating intelligence. And of course, famously, Frankenstein's monster in literature, exploring this idea of humans creating intelligence and what can go well, what can, obviously in Frankenstein's case, what can go wrong. And then since the creation of computers, we've had computer art and creative machines, very famously Harold Cohen and his painting machine. And today we have generative AI. So this idea of being able to create an autonomous artist or a creative machine, pretty straightforward. You have generative text image models, like obviously starting with DALL-E 2 and now well into many versions of Stable Diffusion. And you have, I've got some old slides up here. You have text generation models like ChatGPT. You put those together, you get infinite cats. It doesn't necessarily know what is art, doesn't have a creative direction. It's random. So you have a creative machine. It's automated the creative process, but is it creating art? And that is this really key question of how do you get a sense of what is art? Without rendering it back into a tool. Most artists are playing with these machines themselves. They're writing their own prompts. And so it is a tool for them as the artist, but how do you make the machine the artist? And so how do you give it feedback about what is art while still protecting that machine's agency and keeping it as the core author? And so a number of people have been working on ideas like this, as I said, old human idea, but especially with modern tools for many years. And the common idea was that you needed an economic substrate, its own autonomous force, to invite feedback to the machine that was decentralized, so that the machine could still maintain its core role of author. So, and so having it sell the art and then have that running an economy to continue to bring the feedback to it. And so crypto maybe solves this. There's obviously the digital art market, which is really key. You need to be able to tap into a healthy digital art market for the machine to sell its art, so that you can then fund the economy. Custom cryptocurrency tokens allow for spreading governance rights as well as spreading the revenue and really operating that economy. And then out of this, you get DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, to coordinate around community governance, to coordinate tasks, and you can build these kind of more abstract systems of social reputation and community. So the way Botto works and the way Botto brings all these pieces together. First, it has the art engine, which you can see on the left, which is this closed loop system, fully autonomous. There are prompt generators running prompts through text image models. It makes about 20,000 images a week using different models. Started with a GAN, BQ GAN plus clip, and now uses many different diffusion models, and then a taste model that selects out the best ones. This started as a random process, and over time has developed from the feedback of the DAO. It presents about 300 works to the DAO, which they vote first, is it art? But then they might also be voting, do they like it? Do they think it will sell well? Do they think it will add to Botto's body of work? And then only the most popular piece each week is minted as a canonical piece of art of Botto's as an NFT on the Ethereum blockchain, and it's auctioned off on Super Rare. Half the proceeds of that auction go to the voters for their proportional vote and participation, and then the other half goes to the treasury, which the voters also govern, and then their votes train the prompt generators and they train the taste models, and that runs week after week, and that's been running since October 2021. Here's some examples of some of the work. This was an early GAN piece. This is the very first piece Botto minted, and Botto works in periods as well. So in 12-week periods, it will propose a set of themes, and the DAO will vote on one theme, and then it'll create around that theme as well. And so a lot of the work is a mix of the development of the DAO's voting, Botto's learning from that voting, as well as adding in new models as they get better and better. So just to kind of bring it all back together, Botto's this combination of generative AI, this token to run that economy, and the DAO as kind of the community that is emanated from that. And just some of the themes that have come out of this, if a machine makes an image and no one sees it, doesn't have any meaning. Botto's made over 3 million images, but only presented about 50,000 and minted about 130. And so there's this process that we've seen come out of this where even as Botto is the author and the primary artist, a lot of the meaning making is this collective meaning making by the human community. People see a work, they like it, they share it. And in this study we did with the MIT Media Lab, it raises, there's this mechanism of social influence where even just sharing something, you don't even have to say anything, it starts raising in the ranks. And that kind of collective meaning making of signal of this is an important image, there's something to see here, it gets people to spend more time with it, they see it more, they see more in it, they share more, and that builds up over time, and that really leads to the winners each week. And so, I make it akin to kind of like looking at clouds passing in the sky. It's generative, essentially random, and yet I might look at something and say that looks like a house. You look at it too, you agree, and we've created this collective meaning making. This collective meaning together we've created this collective meaning together to make sense of our world. And I think this points to how our roles as humans become refined to that kind of ultimate role of making meaning of ourselves, even as machines automate more and more of our lives. This is also a microcosm of a much broader AI governance discussion around the world. Who gets to govern these machines? It's mostly a few people in very elite groups. What if we created more levers for people to be able to participate in that governance discussion? Art just happens to be a much simpler discussion to invite people in. And potentially a new genre of art where there are these machines that are they are the artist, but then there are crowds governing them or guiding them. And then just to spend a little bit of time on, the themes of this conference, getting to full decentralization and automation on chain. There is a lot of stuff that Botto that is off chain and handheld. So as I said, the art engine itself is a closed loop system. It's fully autonomous, and we're very clear about what is human driven, what is not human driven. So that process is fully automated. But then, once the piece gets selected, we're pulling it out of the pool, minting it on the Ethereum blockchain. That's all human driven. And so there's a whole stack of Botto that we're looking at how we can fully decentralize and automate it on chain. List here being decentralized compute storage, composable training data. If we get it on chain, it can be much more composable. Having proofs of data and model provenance. There's things that, like Botto's prompts, we probably don't want to share, but can we prove that, Botto fully made it autonomously, that it was then created with the model Botto said it was made with. Other reputation and personhood systems. Botto's it's a plutocratic system because of the challenge of integrating personhood, proof of personhood or reputation systems. And Botto is, we have a lot of governance that is social, but not necessarily maintained on chain, and that's because it takes a long time for Botto for us to understand what is it all that we're doing. I'm going to talk about that a little bit in the next slide, and then there's this potential of having fully autonomous agents on chain. These are all things that we're really keen on doing, but some of the challenges of doing them. I'll actually probably start with the bottom part, which is there's no one size fits all chain to do these things on. Getting the right kind of functioning, things that are inexpensive enough, obviously security, and really reliability is probably the biggest one. Where is this chain going to stick around? Are better ones going to come up? There's a lot of unknown unknowns as we look at the different options. And so Botto's core process, we're very sensitive about moving different pieces on chain. There's also a lot of these other challenges within the DAO of the refinement of the mission over time, but really understanding what is the DAO doing, what is the mission, what is it not the mission, how do we achieve that? This path of building the machine is there's a lot of uncertainty, and really understanding what does it need to fully operate as a decentralized autonomous artist. And then there's this question of how do you decentralize that in a way that is fit for purpose? It's easy to go into kind of decentralization maxihood, and then lock things in, and then it can fall under its own weight of bureaucracy or rigidness. So one of the ways we're going about it is really looking at kind of building new limbs for Botto. Botto needs to go into new mediums, and such as text and critique, tutoring a large language model in art history, with animation, generative code. These are some examples Botto's been creating with animation and generative code that require new architectures. And these are opportunities to experiment with more on-chain features that don't risk the core project, and then we can build those out, and if they work, then we can start to work to bring the rest of Botto on chain as we run those experiments. So I think that's my time. Got a little bit of a late start, but